Welcome back into League of Our Own with myself, Goran Paladin, and the legend, the icon, 331 first grade games, 51 tests for the Kiwis. Adam Blair, always great to see you and to spend time with you, man. How have you been?
It's a pleasure, Goran. Always look forward to this time of the evening or night for both of us, but later night for you. I've been good. It's like I always say when we speak on it, it's the game that never stops giving. Rugby league, no matter what you do, the game continues to deliver news. So yeah, excited. Always good to chat with you, Goran. Good to see you, man.
And just remember that here on League of Our Own, there is no chance of either of us being sacked for being too sexy, which seems to be in the news at the moment. And look, I've got to say a massive thank you to everybody who took the time to watch and comment either on our podcast or on our Dallin Watene-Zelezniak social clip over the course of the past week. It was awesome. Great to see the engagement and everybody buying into the League of Our Own movement. But I'll say this, Blairy, the best comment was from Taika Blair, because I was watching Jess's video of him asking you in the kitchen, like, do you wish you were more athletic or something? And you're like,
yep. Honestly, Goran, I didn't know anything about it. Obviously, I understand now that it's a bit of a trend on TikTok or something. And I actually didn't understand where he was going with the question. And obviously him being 8 and asking that kind of question, that's why I was a little bit tripped out around where he was trying to go with it. Because I'm like thinking to myself, is he actually asking that question? But he asked the question, man, and had a good laugh at the same time, and so did my wife.
Yeah, it was so good, yeah. You're asking like a game legend whether he wishes he was more athletic or not. Good one, son. All right. Yeah. We move on because there is so much to talk about. We'll get to Jerome Hughes and his shoulder dislocation and also his re-signing with the Melbourne Storm and what his shoulder might actually mean for the Kiwis. We'll get to all of that. We'll also talk about Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, our favourite from last week. He retains his spot in the side. But are things starting to go a little bit sideways for the One New Zealand Warriors, Blairy? The team has been named to face the Dolphins on Friday night at home, Go Media Stadium, Mount Smart. And there are a number of absentees. James Fisher-Harris is out for the next 2 games with a calf injury. The same fate has befallen Chanel Harris-Tavita. He's out for 1 week. Wayde Egan, as we know, he was ruled out through concussion against the Titans in that defeat. He's absent as well. So we've got 7 players unavailable, and you could say, like 6 of those players are bona fide starters for the Warriors. As they come into this Dolphins game, what are the chances that in the next couple of weeks we see the Warriors fall out of the top 4?
Oh, Goran, I reckon there's a possibility over the next couple of weeks that they fall out of the top 4, which to me is not a good place to be, especially if like, to be honest, I think the Warriors have been pretty consistent this year. But what has saved them, and I know we spoke about this again maybe a few episodes back, that having their spine was key to where they were going. And I think the biggest loss out of this team, Goran, for the next week at least, is Wayde Egan.
Gotta be.
Wayde Egan, he's been the most consistent, I think, and an integral part of that spine. And a lot of their shape, a lot of the Warriors' shape comes off the back of Wayde Egan with his deception with the ball. He brings his forwards onto the ball, but it's the options that he chooses when it's time to shoot it out to his half. So I think if anyone's watched the Warriors, they've scored a lot of tries from kicks, but also when they get close to the line, a lot of forwards are scoring tries, whether it's Wayde Egan bringing them onto the ball and finding short passes, or his no-lookers, or being able to swing it at the back, or it's between forwards close to the line scoring tries. So I think the biggest loss for the Warriors especially next week, which I think, or this week, sorry, with the Dolphins, is Wayde Egan and the important role that he plays for those middle forwards. Yes, they're lacking one of their co-captains. Obviously, Mitch is on the sidelines. James Fisher-Harris being such an important player to his leadership, and they're asking a lot of these younger boys who I think bring confidence into the team, especially the boys that have come from New South Wales Cup because they've been so consistent in winning. But you're asking someone like Dimitrik, who I think is an exceptional talent and has been playing some really good football, to start in the game and lead that intensity alongside Jackson Ford. So I think the biggest loss for me, Goran, is definitely Wayde Egan.
Yeah, and I think we saw the influence that he has at the weekend. Started strong, then he goes off. The Titans scored when he was on the ground, floored by that contact. But then after that, you see the lack of control around the ruck area, and the Titans are just running people. Guys like super fast players like Brimson and Campbell and Sami all through the middle, and the Warriors weren't able to control that. And then you've got the intelligence of somebody like Kieran Foran who can pull the strings when they're in the red zone, and that Harbour Bridge pass that he picked up his winger with when he knows that Dallin's going to be jamming in. So that's how the Titans managed to do it, right, at the weekend, because of Wayde Egan. Yeah, there were a number of other things that sort of went against the Warriors, but without Wayde Egan, he means so much to that side. And you mentioned Dimitrik Valamunga managing to start this weekend alongside Jackson Ford, and it's a great opportunity for a wonderful young player.
Yeah.
But the inexperience across that pack. Let me just read out some of the numbers. So Dimitrik has 25 first-grade games. Sam Healy, who comes in for Wayde Egan, only 2. Lecker has played 22. The bulk of the experience in the forward pack comes from Ford with 93, Marata, who brought up 150 against the Titans, and Clark with 113. And then it's slim pickings on the bench as well. Stowers Smith has only played 6, Laban 18, and Freddie Lussick, the world's smallest prop, comes in for what will be game 49. So they are thin on the ground in terms of experience when it comes to that forward pack. So Wayde Egan is enormous, him not being there, mate.
Well, it's getting to the tricky end of the season, the most important part of your season, and we understand in the top 4 and how important the top 4 is for any team, because yes, when we look at the grand scheme of things and where everyone wants to be, you want to finish in the top 4.
Of course.
So there's a massive possibility over the next couple of weeks, if they don't get through the Dolphins on Friday night at Go Media Stadium, there's a possibility they come up against the Bulldogs, who are running hot, that they could be 4 points down, and there's the Penrith Panthers, reigning premiers, who are just nipping at the heels of everyone and being the quiet assassins in the competition, have now found themselves in a perfect position, nipping at the heels of the Warriors. So for me, like I said, Goran, it's Wayde Egan, and you spoke about the middle of the park. The why they were on the back foot is because they couldn't find the momentum on the front foot, purely because Wayde Egan plays a big part in that. He brings their forwards onto the ball. He plays the right options. He chooses the right options. And when it's time to throw it at the back, he finds the people that it needs to get to. And I think everyone knows, I think the Warriors have only beaten the Titans once in a long time. And every other game, the Titans have had the wood over the Warriors. And I go back to 2024, Go Media Stadium again. I think there was a time there where I found that the Titans have ran themselves into form once they've played the Warriors. I know they're sitting down at the bottom of the table, but every game's a tough game no matter where you sit. So you can't get comfortable with whoever you play. And I think if we go back again to the performance against the Newcastle Knights, I think that moment from Leiataua masked a lot of the performance of the Warriors. I didn't think they were the best team on the day. And yes, they got a job done. But it just goes to show that no matter who you play or whether it's on the ladder, you have to be at your best. And maybe the last 2 weeks, Goran, even though they beat the Newcastle Knights, they weren't at their best.
Yeah, I think you're right. The Leiataua try, it definitely papers over some of the cracks that are starting to appear at New Zealand Warriors HQ. And you say that you need to be at your best. Obviously you do. But with the Warriors cattle, their stock's starting to decline somewhat because they've got so many players out injured. The Dolphins, they're getting players back, so they're on the rise. They're a wonderful attacking team. I think they've got the second best points differential in the competition. They've scored the third most points in the competition as well. And coming back this weekend, they've got Kafusi starting up front. They've got Nichols on the bench and Kodi Nikorima as well. And now Kodi plays out on the left side. And you know where I'm going with this, right? Because on the left-hand side, marrying up with a Warriors right edge that has Kurt Capewell and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, Kodi's going to have at his disposal Herbie Farnworth, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow sweeping around the outside. Jake Averillo is going to be playing on a wing. Now, there's a lot of pace, there's a lot of threat, and I know that in the last match that they played earlier in the season, the same right edge for the Warriors, Capewell and Dallin, did a really good job on that Dolphins side. But when you take into account the number of absentees going into this game for the Wars, I don't think they're going to have the same level of success. And Kodi is a smart guy. You know Kodi so well. And he's a smart individual. And he would not have been, head in the sand. He would be watching what was going on with Dallin and that right side defence. And they all have a field day on Friday night.
Kodi's definitely a welcoming sight for the Dolphins. With him in the team, alongside those names that you mentioned, Katoa as well, Izzy Katoa, they are, like you said, up there with the most potent attacking team in the competition. They could put 40 points on you just like that. And that edge that you've just spoke about is world class. There's some class out there, and for some reason, and we've always spoke about this about my little mate Kodi, is that every time he plays against a Warriors team, he goes up his performance normally goes through the roof. And then you talk about, I guess, Dallin and some of the decisions he's making. Kodi loves to come down. They love attacking that side because of the slight hands that Kodi has. He's got a great little deception with his passing, loves a no-looker, has a nice little show long, and waits for the reaction of your winger to make a decision for him. And of late, Dallin's been making decisions a lot easier for halves like Kieran, like Gago when he was there against the Knights. And if you give that to Kodi, 9 times out of 10, he's going to hit the mark every time. So they're going to have to be on their toes on that edge. I know they come up against him last time, and Kurt Capewell done a really good job. And I know that they can get a job done. But we've spoken about, I guess, Dallin. The fans have spoken about Dallin and his actions and the way that he's doing things. And I know we've said it previously too, Goran, about it's not only Dallin that has made the wrong decisions, and there's not only Dallin in the defensive line. There's a lot of things that happen before it gets to Dallin. But there was a try, I thought, that Kurt Capewell made the decision for everyone else to go jamming, and you can't blame Dallin for coming in and jamming as well, because that's part of the system. So yes, Dallin can be better. Yes, the edge can be better, but the whole team through the middle of the park needs to be better. But we're only looking at these moments where the tries are scored. And when those tries are scored, you look at the person, the experience, the games, the internationals that he's played at, you would think that things could be better in those decisions. So I think, yes, some of it's fair. I think some of it's fair on the criticism that they're having about Dallin, but there's also 3 or 4 or even 6 people that can make the decision a lot easier for your wingers. And we ask a lot from our middle players to make it easier for our edges to make decisions. But at the end of the day, ultimately, you are paid on the field to be the best player you can be, and you're literally criticised a lot for those moments. You're criticised a lot for those moments, and people kind of see those moments more than the highlight moments or the big moments. They judge you on some of those, I guess, disappointing moments or those imperfections that you're just jamming because you're jamming. But a lot of things go into it. And I reckon there's a lot of people that have spoken about this anyway, going around Dallin and his movements. And they would speak about the inside men's all the time. They'll be speaking about Kurt Capewell not being in a centre and him making those decisions. But at the end of the day, if the coaches put them there in these positions, he trusts them to get the job done. They may be letting each other down. They may be letting each other down on how they do their thing. So a tough night again. We question that edge. Tough night again for those boys up against a quality edge, especially left edge of the Dolphins. And I know a lot of ball will go there for sure.
We say a lot of things on this podcast. Obviously we do. It's just the two of us, and we're talking for like 40 or 45 minutes. Some of it is really intelligent, and some of it is outrageous. Maybe this is outrageous, what I'm about to say, but I'll put it out there anyway. I reckon the only reason Dallin is still in the team is because of the injury toll. Without Chanel Harris-Tavita, Tamaiti becomes the Warriors 6, which I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah.
If the Warriors forward pack can give him some decent field position, I'm really keen to see what him and Tanner Boyd can put together. But I go back to the point that I was trying to make. The only reason Dallin hasn't been dropped is because of the decimation to the Warriors stocks. I reckon if Fish and Chanel and Wayde Egan were playing this weekend, Andrew Webster would have put a black line through Dallin's name, and it would have been a case of Tain Tuopiki playing on the wing, and then you retain Tamaiti Martin as the 14. I honestly believe that's the only reason why he's got a stay of execution. And it's up to him now to take this extra chance that he's been given and actually make good on it. Because if he performs this weekend on Friday night against the Dolphins, then everybody, the noise starts to quieten down around him, right? Say he puts in a great defensive effort alongside Kurt Capewell. Say he scores a hat-trick. Say the Warriors win against the odds. Then he's justified his inclusion, even though he probably shouldn't have been playing this week.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's the thing about rugby league. Goran, you get a week to be better, and you can either get worse or you prove to people like us and the fans that it was the right decision. I'm in the team because I'm experienced and I'm good at what I do and I'm an international player. So the noise, like you said, goes away. We're not talking about some of the defensive decisions that we're making. We all jump back on the bandwagon and we keep on talking about how good he can be. But I think, to be honest, Goran, I think he's a great winger. I think he's a great winger and he's done some exceptional stuff in the game. I think sometimes you get put in situations when you have to make split decisions. And I get it, man. It's a hard position to defend when you've got an inexperienced centre next to you. I get that. But I go back to the same thing, is that he's there because that the coach trusts these guys. That's why he's playing centre. If they had a better centre that they trust, they would have put someone in there. And I think, like you said, I think he gets in there purely on his experience. I think when I think about who's below him, outside of those boys besides Tain, you're thinking about those New South Wales Cup boys that haven't. Leiataua Graham is much the only one with NRL experience down at New South Wales Cup for those positions. I might be wrong. Morgan Harper, you know what I mean? And I guess there's two guys that can maybe come into that space. But when you think about the experience that Dallin has and what the team is putting on paper for this game, is that he becomes an important part of the Warriors moving into this Dolphins. Whether he's important defensively, but he's also important as an experience to be able to carry these boys through this game, to keep them in touch and staying in that force. So I think, like you said, Goran, he's there because his experience, and Tain is sitting on the bench, I think, to cover all those positions that a Tamaiti would play. But like you said, again, excited for Tamaiti. We both said it. And I said it as well. If he's not a starting half, he's not in my team. He now gets a chance to play alongside the 7, Tanner Boyd, to be able to showcase what he can do. And I think I can't wait to see Tamaiti grab this with two hands. It could be a headache moving forward for Coach Webster if he performs well. Like you said, they get the win. Dallin's doing everything right. Then where does Chanel fit back into the squad? Does he move to the 9 spot like we saw? Does he go to the bench and fill that role of Tamaiti? So excited for Tamaiti, excited for this young group to see what they can do. But we go back to the experience. There's not much in the middle of the pack, but also there's some experience out wide. So it's got a big job, the outside backs.
Just on the on Dallin and what this extra game that has basically come like a bolt from the blue for him because of all of the injuries. It's almost like he's at a crossroads, isn't he? You know, like if he doesn't get this opportunity on Friday night and Tane Tuopiki gets his spot, you've got Dallin who's contracted to the Warriors for a further 2 years. What happens with him? Does he kick stones in reserve grade? Has he played his final NRL game? Does he look for a release? You know, you go down that path. But if he makes good, if he plays a really good game and the noise quietens down, as I say, then there's this other path that he can take off down, and that is rediscover the form of 2023. He's scoring tries. He becomes defensively sound. Maybe he forms a really good partnership with Kurt Capewell this weekend before Rocco, Blairy and Leiataua come back and allow Kurt Capewell back to the back row where he's best suited. So it is interesting how sport and life works. You know, one door closes, another one opens for him. It could have just been like, okay, I'll go down this path and all of a sudden I'm playing Super League for Catalan Dragons or something. But no, I'm staying with the Warriors. I'm seeing out my contract and I'm the first choice right winger.
I'd love to see him with one of the traditional centres, Goran. I'd love to see him with someone like Rocco Blairy or Leiataua who are traditionally centres. That's their position. They are lucky to have someone like Kurt Capewell in their squad. Definitely are lucky to have someone like him that can fill a gap. But I do think he's a burden to some of the decisions around what happens with DWZ and his decision making, purely because you have backs or centers where they are the toughest position, I think, on the field. When your middle doesn't work for you and you're struggling with numbers, if you make a decision that impacts your winger, then he is at the detriment to some of your decisions as well. So I wouldn't say that it's at crossroads for Dallin. I'd love him to own that wing spot because I think he's good enough for it. I think he's an exceptional wing, and I said that earlier, but I'd love him to be alongside a centre. And that's no disrespect to Kurt Capewell because I think he's doing an awesome and outstanding job. I just think to make things a lot easier for the team, it would be great to have someone that's healthy, fit, that's a centre that can fit into that spot to help that edge.
Just going back to the original question, though, that we asked right at the top of this episode, which is, are the Warriors on their way out of the top four? And I think temporarily, at least, yes, they are. And I don't want to say that. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to be pessimistic or anything like that, mate. But when I look at the cattle that's available and the games that they've got over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of rounds, they've got the Dolphins and then the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs away. And if you're taking to the field without Fish, and we already know that you've got no Mitch Barnett, you go into that game without your two leading middles, that's a really tall order. And then I look at the teams that are chasing them. I look immediately at the Penrith Panthers, who are smoking hot at the moment. And who have they got in the next couple of weeks? The Titans, and I'm willing to bet they won't do a Warriors there. They won't miss. And they've got your Newcastle Knights. So two teams down the bottom end of the ladder that, you know, they should win. They should win those games. And if the Warriors lose both of theirs, they're pushed down into fifth. Then I start looking at the Broncos, who are 4 points adrift of the Warriors, but with a better points differential. Now, they've got the Rabbitohs this weekend, and that's basically a walking win. The weekend after that, they play the Melbourne Storm. A Melbourne Storm without Jerome Hughes. So if the Broncos can rediscover their winning ways, which were absent against Parramatta the other day, then who's to say they couldn't win both of those games?
Yeah.
And then you're looking at the Warriors being sixth with 4 rounds to go. The good news, though, for the Warriors, Blairy, looking at the draw, it is, as we've always said, a relatively easy run in for them. They've got the Dragons. They play the Titans again. I'm sure they'll be willing to make good on what happened the other week. They've got the Eels, and then a relatively tough one. They've got to play at Brookie against the Manly Seagulls, but you don't know what kind of headspace the Manly Seagulls are going to be in, whether they're in or outside of the 8. Although it will be Daly Cherry Evans' final game for the Seagulls, so there will be emotion regardless.
Definitely.
So There will be opportunities for the Warriors to get back in, especially when you look at the Penny Panthers. They've got to play every member of the top three, the Raiders, the Dogs, and the Melbourne Storm on the way in. So even though the Warriors may get leapfrogged in the next fortnight, there are avenues and possibilities for them to punch their way back in, especially when they get back Chanel and Wayde and James Fisher-Harris. So it's kind of like I'm tearing them down only to build them back up before we start finals, man.
I think when you just spoke about the Penrith Panthers run, I reckon they're the ones that are nipping at the heels of the Warriors, and because we know what they can do this time of the year, they normally prime themselves rolling into the back end of the season, and they typically go to another level, and we're kind of seeing that with their performances. They've managed to be able to rest their stars throughout the origin period as well, and then get them back to the point that they've set Nathan Cleary on the bench. So I think, a club that has been able to play these games consistently and know what is expected to play a grand final, understand the importance of having their best players ready and firing this time of the year. You think about the run, and we said it's a relatively soft run into home for the Warriors. You could have said that last week against the Titans.
Yeah.
They got lucky against the Knights with the moment that Lekalasima had. Every game's a tough game in this competition, and everyone's playing for something. Whether it's off the bottom of the table, whether it's for a contract, whether it's for a coaching job, there's always something to play for in the game of rugby league. So no matter how people think the soft run may be, or how we think the soft run may be, it's always tough this time of the year to play anyone, whether it's a bottom 8 team or a top 8 team. I'm going to say that they're going to finish in 5th position. Goran, I think they're going to finish in 5th position, not through the lack of trying. I think they'll just run out of steam just before the end there, because teams are going to be competing for something. And it'll be unfortunate, because I think they've been pretty consistent this year. Didn't start well round 1. Obviously, the hiding from Melbourne, and then they've found a bit of consistent form. And again, one of the teams with measurably the least amount of injuries in the spine have now had some injuries, seasons, some niggles of late, HIA through Wayde, Egan, and some movement and some shifting of leaders around. I think that might come back at the back end to bite them in this top 4 race. Would love to see the Warriors in the top 4, no doubt, and competing and for those spots, because we all know how important the top 4 is. So you can't write them off, but I just think it's just going to be too tough of arcs to be able to hold that spot when you've got the Penrith Panthers, who are just nipping at the heels, even though they have a tough run home.
Yeah, well, look, it's up to the Warriors to prove us and everybody else wrong. The people that are writing them off and saying that they will drop out of the 4. Go out there and prove us all wrong. And it starts on Friday night against the Dolphins. It's going to be a really tough ask, but with a strong crowd at Go Media Stadium, Mount Smart, and maybe some really horrible conditions could help, because I don't know if you've heard the news over there in Australia.
Storm coming
the old atmospheric river. It's been bucketing down for the last day and a bit. So it's expected to carry on this week. So maybe the Dolphins, mind you, Dolphins like water.
They'll be swimming.
Yeah.
They'll be swimming in it.
We're screwed.
We don't want it.
We're screwed.
You want it to be hot.
Yeah, hot and dry. Ridiculous. But anyway, over to you, Warriors. Hey, away from the One New Zealand Warriors, Blairy, want to talk to you about the reigning Dallin medalist, Jerome Hughes. So he dislocates his shoulder. Everyone's fearing the worst, that he's going to get wiped out for the rest of the season. And with his injury and his unavailability, there go the Melbourne Storm's chances. But the scans have shown that he doesn't need surgery, at least not right away, and that he will be back later in the season. Then he's extended for the Melbourne Storm until 2030. Pretty exciting week for Jerome Hughes, man.
It's some awesome news for Jerome Hughes and the club, to be honest. I think someone that you want to keep on the books there that has come through your systems, that has been a Dallin winner, who has, transformed his own performance into the international space, I think is an awesome signing for the Storm. I didn't think you could see him playing for anyone else, as in Jerome Hughes, and luckily that obviously there's so much interest from obviously the Perth Bears. They're coming into the competition.
PNG was another name tossed up, yeah.
PNG and stuff like that, and they would have been chucking the big dollars. But I think the best place for Jerome and the club was to stay at the Storm, and the great news of him not having to have surgery right now has been awesome news for the Storm, because come finals football, he plays a big part of what they do moving forward. And I just think, like when they say obviously he's not going to need surgery, I think there's going to have to be something at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Obviously not an expert around the medical stuff, but and I'm not preaching to be one, but I think if there's nothing now, there's going to be something at the back end of the season which may affect the international space, Goran.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I thought of straight away, because all of the messaging, the media release from the Storm, and then Jerome spoke at a media conference yesterday, and he says it was all positive news with no surgery required straight away. His words, not mine. And so, my thoughts immediately went to the Kiwis. And you've already got Dylan Brown, who's not seeing game time.
Yeah.
And now you've got Jerome Hughes and the threat of end-of-season surgery. So you've got your first choice 6 and 7 essentially taken out of the mix. Okay, look, you may still pick Dylan Brown, but as we mentioned the other week, he goes into a Kiwis camp on the back of possibly 3 months without first-grade football, that's a tall order as well. So without Hughes, without Brown, who do we start looking at? And I'm thinking maybe it's a farewell tour for Kieran Foran. I think Kieran Foran is the guy. I'm starting to wonder whether Kieran Foran and Kodi Nikorima are paired together in the halves for the Kiwis at the end of this year. And look, before he got injured, Kodi Nikorima was playing the house down, forming such a great partnership with Isaiah Katoa. I don't think he'd let you down, man.
Nah, I think, it's unfortunate for us if that's where he ends up going at the end of the year. And fingers crossed.
Well, you know how things work, mate. You've been an NRL player before, and you know how they pay the players' wages.
Yeah.
And they want their player fit and firing in March next year, correct?
Yeah, I was blessed, Goran, so I didn't get to have many surgeries. Only
just
had one.
Too tough, mate.
Only tough. one in my time. Didn't have a shoulder, so I don't know what he's going through. But I would assume, like you said in his words, that there would be something happening at the end of the season, and typically the club has a lot of control over what happens when it comes to that. So if they say we need him in ASAP after his last game, unfortunately for the Kiwis, that rules him out. You spoke about Dylan Brown. Man, if you don't play, what's he already down 2 weeks already?
Yeah.
If he doesn't play another game, and by the time the Kiwis come around, that's a lot of football missed before you play your next game. A lot of football missed before you play your next game. Like you said, there would be no better storyline than Sean Johnson's retirement than having Kieran Foran play his last 3-4 test matches in the Kiwi jersey for his country internationally. I think there would be no better story, because like Sean, like him, they've done so much for the game at that space, so he would not look out of place. And I think really that's your option. That's really the option. And then someone like Kodi comes back into contention, Tamari Martin, Chanel Harris-Tavita, if he decides to play for the Kiwis, other than maybe Samoa. So, the one thing that we do lack, Goran, in the NRL space, especially the Kiwi space, is halves. Is most probably a dominant 7. Since we lost Stacey, since we lost Sean, since we're about to lose Kieran, there is not too many others running around that are just pure out and right sevens.
Outside of Jerome.
And that's a worry. That's a worry for our international game for the Kiwis, that we haven't been able to develop our own sevens, a la the ones that we just mentioned in this game. And after Jerome, like there's some young seven getting around that's a Kiwi and wants to play for New Zealand, that we can start putting our eggs in there or start working alongside to hopefully have a future with. So it's concerning for me as part of the Kiwi staff, and as a passionate international Kiwi player, former, and love being involved in that space, that we don't have the next rising star yet. And if I haven't seen it, I'm sure if someone actually, let's put this one out to the fans too, Goran.
Okay.
If they jump on the Adam Blair network, onto the YouTube, and someone knows a real good young seven that's coming through, say ages 16 upwards, please let me know their name. I'm going to go chase them down and find them. Maybe I'll try and get into the Newcastle Knights.
Oh, he won't have a job there, mate, because Dylan Brown's going to be playing seven for the next 10 years.
We'll find the way. But anyways, I just think it's an important space, and those guys, if Jerome's needing an operation, obviously Foreign's your next best, and if Dylan Brown isn't playing any footy, I would still go with Dallin. But then there's also obviously Kodi, Tamaire, Chanel if they're ready for it as well.
Hey, Blairy, betcha this happens last week was a disaster. I think we were 0-4 before I just lost interest. So, as we tend to say, hoping for a lot better this week in round 22.
You know what, bro? We've come up with all these different strategies. None of them have worked.
Yeah, and I'm all out of strategy. So, I'm just going to pick what I see fit.
Straight down the line.
So, here we go. Time for betcha this happens for round 22. I'm picking the Eels to upset the Melbourne Storm on a Thursday night, paying $3.70. Hey, remember, the Melbourne Storm are without... Stop laughing. They're without Jerome Hughes, even though they welcome back Ryan Pappenhausen and Cameron Munster. Eels too strong because of Mitch Moses' magic. They don't need Dylan Brown. Yeah, it's good money as well, $3.70. It's going to help out our multi. Warriors against the Dolphins. Warriors paying $2.25. Dolphins $1.67.
Ooh.
I'm going the favourite. I'm getting in behind the Dolphins, paying the $1.67. I just think that left edge attack is going to be far too strong for the Warriors' right side. So expect a lot of tries through Avarillo, Farnworth, Hammer, and Kodi Nikorima.
What, 13 plus?
Could be 13 plus. Maybe that's a different bet that I place at another time.
Just a quiet one, that one. Just between yourself and yourself.
And you and everybody who's listening to League of Our Own. Broncos $1.16. $1.16 to beat the South Sydney Rabbitohs $5.40. You got to get in behind the Broncos. Gold Coast Titans, even after a wonderful win against the Warriors away from home, they're paying $4.25. Panthers $1.22.
Wow. Penny Panthers.
Penrith Panthers to win. Dragons are paying $2.90 against the Canberra Raiders $1.42.
Raiders all day.
Yeah, they're green machine. Good.
They're playing a style of football that suits their style of players that they have there, and it's exciting. There's a lot of offloads, power game, go after people playing in different positions and just playing it well, just getting their jobs done. But backs against the wall, Ricky Stewart style of football.
Seagulls got smoked at the weekend. They're $1.70 at home when they welcome the Sydney Roosters, $2.15. I'll go the visitors. Roosters paying $2.15. I'll take that. Tigers are hosting the Bulldogs. Now, this would have been an intense and extreme occasion for Lockie Galvin if they were playing where?
Leichhardt.
Oh, but they're not.
Sunday Arvo. Yeah. Sunday Arvo, Leichhardt. There's no better place, man, on the afternoon, besides, I reckon, Suncorp, but at a local ground. Man,
Can you
would have been
imagine the
huge.
reception Lockie Galpin would have got there?
I reckon some booze, some chucking some glass onto the field. I don't know, everything.
West Tigers paying $3.60. Bulldogs $1.30. We'll go with Gus Gould's Dogs. And then the final game of the round, it's the Sharks at home to the Cowboys. Sharks $1.40. Cowboys $2.95. The Sharks will complete my multi, and that is a multi of $48.58. I'll put $1 on that, and I'll lose it in the first game when the Eels go down to the Storm.
Back yourself, mate.
Mitch Moses, mate, he just changes the team, doesn't he? Could have done that in Origin as well, but the injury. Anyway, I digress. Blairy, awesome as always, mate, to be in your company and chat the wonderful game of rugby league and try and solve the problems of the Wars.
Awesome, Goran. Appreciate your time always, man. And yeah, like we always say, subscribe to our channel. The Adam Blend Network, how good. Real simple. You're looking at me, you're looking at him, you're looking at us. Let's go get it.